Hey guys, what's up? Now, let me talk about something. My YouTube Red Dark Unicorn Studios basically just made a short movie basically called Mania. And this is why I believe it Mania is a kind of found footage horror or some type of internet horror that doesn't really use any traditional horror tropes that rather uses the own viewer's mind against them. For for me, Dark Unicorn Studios Mania is a internet horror that simulates guilt. Let me explain. So I think you should search up Dark Unicorn Studios and watch the video titled Mania before going back to this video. I can wait. I don't care about views and watch time anyway. And just come back here, or I'm assuming you already watch it or just don't care. So let me just summarize it. Basically, Mania is seen to the lens of a type of camera. It is basically the modern day because of the technology we see there. Now, basically, the protagonist basically is a male because of their voice and simply how they act and how their room looks like. Now, they basically just like walk around the house. Every now and then their camera malfunctions, but then they keep finding notes. The first set of notes basically just repeats the same thing, that whoever drew it likes them, and that they're asking if the protagonist likes them back. However, it seems the protagonist has basically ignored them, because in the beginning of the short movie we see the protagonist hold up somewhere deep in their own house. In the later notes, it is revealed the protagonist actually hid from whoever's posting these notes, who I suspect to be a female of some sort. Basically, someone very obsessed with them. Eventually, they keep finding notes until at some point, one of these notes says how they got basically depressed from the protagonist ignoring them, and that they hate them for it, and that they did this to them. The protagonist then finds a note that says, "I'm going off into the woods," in a car in their house. As a result of this, we see some text urging the protagonist to run to the forest. Upon running there, however, they find a final note that depicts a hanged person, basically someone committing suicide. And then the last few seconds of the movie has, or the short film has, the protagonist and the camera pointing up at a tree, a very tall one, and you can see something called that has a bizarre color, like the color of skin, just in there. I don't know if the creator of the movie actually hung something on the tree, but yeah, that's it. Now, as for why I believe this is a horror that simulates guilt, it's because of the fact there's no actual jump scares in it. It's simply someone running around the house and finding notes about someone who basically had some sort of feelings for them, but then because of how they ignored them, they ended up committing self-oofing. And in another thing was that in the last few seconds there was also some text from the protagonists themselves, where they basically said that they basically said about they were like so traumatized by this, and that they would never forget that person. For me, this simulates guilt because in so many ways this could have been avoided. They didn't they simply ignored that person, but this unfortunately led to them taking their own life. A life that you can only have once. A life granted by God. A life which is an experience to see beauty, all thrown away by some simple ignorance. Seeing someone succumb to such a fate and then knowing that you had something to do with it is what I believe simulates guilt. As a human, you would know, like, you'd get to experience, a lot of things, and you'd very clearly know what bad experience feels like. You're a human. You can never avoid feeling a bad experience, whether it's being cock blocked or being rejected by your crush, cock blocked by your crush, or just straight up a bad day. Basically, to think that you put someone in such a bad situation, depressed them to the point where they committed self-oofing. Like, can you even like imagine what that would be? Like, there are many religions, but basically all of them portray self-oofing as like very very bad. Imagine knowing that you inflicted that onto someone. I'm so sure you won't be sleeping for a while. You'd be still there just thinking what should have been, what their life could have been. Not only did that person basically end up killing themselves, they also killed any potential relationships and children they would have had. A life literally wasted, a life gone to ruin. What we do not Many video games and media show just death as a random person splattering their guts out and then just falling apart. But in reality, when we're taking a life, we're taking away an entire bunch of lore. That those are short sentient individuals, creatures with intelligence, all have a comprehension of the world, whether it be through magic or science or a combination of basic science and magic. Everyone has a comprehension of the world around them. There was a story. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a story to tell. Every, every life is important. Every soul can be. Every soul, every creation made by God is simply of great value. Something that could not be. That is. It's not a resource. It is, well, a resource that to some one way or another has become a living resource, something alive. It's an object, yes, but it's alive. It's alive and it's sentient. It has its own backstory, its own life, its own happiness, its own sadness. And to think that this gift of God was taken away and you had something to do with it, it's an absolute pain. And in the context of the film, it's painful to know that person really did like the protagonist. They loved them to the point where they committed suicide for them. To think that you took away someone who you cared by just locking them out, and then I don't know what the protagonist was thinking, but it was outright painful. This is why I believe it is the film Mania is a story that simulates guilt. How about the taking of life, lead, like causing a suicide, a life, a life, a living, like a soul, something that could not be replaced ever. Yeah, you may use AI to copy them, but you will still have the remnants of the original soul with that. They are important. They are special. They are beloved. They show the very nature of God itself. On whatever life you have, a gangster or a princess, they it's a life. It's a gift. It's a soul. Something so precious, so priceless that not even anything in this material world could ever replace. Just gone, and you had something to do with it. Something so precious that you took away from so many people. Imagine how many relatives that person who committed suicide in a film was, and you had something to do with it. That that is basically my own breakdown of causing suicide or indirectly causing suicide means the loss of life, the loss of soul, the loss of a story, the loss of a unique shape shaped by a story that could never be truly replenished, no matter how many doppelgangers you have. That is what I consider scary in Mania.